In Shenyang, China, 260 luxury mansions with marble floors and crystal chandeliers now serve as cattle barns for local farmers. Cows graze where millionaires were supposed to drink champagne. The state guest mansions were built to house China's elite, European-style villas, manicured gardens, price tags in the millions. Pause. But the rich never came. A local resident named Guo told reporters, "These homes would have sold for millions, but the rich haven't even bought one of them." Now farmers use the abandoned shells to raise livestock, because nobody else wants them. This isn't an isolated failure. Across China, between 65 and 80 million homes sit completely empty right now. That's enough vacant housing to shelter the entire population of Germany. A former deputy head of China's National Bureau of Statistics, He Kang, put it bluntly, that estimate might be a bit much, but 1.4 billion people probably can't fill them. These aren't slums. These are brand new towers, luxury developments, entire planned cities, built for populations that never arrived. And the story of how this happened starts with a simple question. What do you do when construction becomes your economy? So here's the plan. Chinese officials came up with in 2009. Build an entirely new city between Shenyang and Fushun called Shenfu New Town. 22 square kilometers of farmland transformed into gleaming urban development. And to attract tourists and residents to this brand new city, they spent $16 million building a 60-story steel structure called the Ring of Life. It's exactly what it sounds like. A massive circular ring, 515 feet tall, using approximately 3,000 tons of steel, designed as a tourist attraction. The idea was simple. Build something spectacular and people will come. Pause. Nobody came. The Ring of Life now stands over empty streets and abandoned construction sites. Shenfu New Town sprawls across those 22 square kilometers, but the buildings that were supposed to fill it now sit empty. According to Al Jazeera, abandoned structures litter what was once farmland. The farms are gone. The city never arrived. And a $16 million steel ring serves as a monument to a bet that didn't pay off. But Shenfu New Town was just one project in a nationwide construction frenzy. To understand the scale of what happened, you need to understand one number: 70%. But here's the thing. Real estate isn't just business in China. It's everything. Property constitutes roughly 70% of household wealth in China. 7 out of every $10 a Chinese family has saved is locked up in real estate, and the sector itself accounts for approximately 24 to 29% of China's entire GDP. Pause. That means when housing prices rise, the middle class feels wealthy. And when housing prices fall, the entire middle class loses their savings simultaneously. This created a dangerous feedback loop. Developers borrowed heavily, betting on ever-rising prices. Cities competed to build bigger, taller, more impressive projects. Local governments depended on land sales for revenue. Everyone had a reason to keep building, whether or not anyone needed the buildings. By 2021, China had 2,128 skyscrapers over 150 meters tall, more than any other country on Earth. All 3 height indicators remained #1 in the world, according to the Global Times. The question nobody wanted to ask: who was going to live in all of them? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Then in 2020, Beijing drew 3 red lines. The Chinese government introduced new regulations limiting how much debt property developers could carry. 3 specific ratios. 3 hard limits. If you crossed any of them, you couldn't borrow more money. Pause. For companies built entirely on borrowed money, this was catastrophic. Developers had been using debt to buy land, build buildings, pre-sell apartments, and use that money to buy more land. It was a perpetual motion machine powered by leverage. The 3 red lines policy stopped the machine cold. And no company fell harder than Evergrande. By January 2024, Evergrande, the world's most heavily indebted real estate developer, owed over $300 billion to banks and bondholders. A Hong Kong judge named Linda Chan ordered the company to liquidate, explaining, "It would be a situation where the court says enough is enough." Evergrande alone left approximately 800,000 families who had pre-sold homes with nothing but unfinished concrete shells. 800,000 families who paid for homes that may never be completed. And then came the skyscraper ban. In July 2021, China's government banned new construction of buildings over 500 meters tall. Buildings above 250 meters would be strictly restricted. James von Klemperer, president of architecture firm Kohn Pedersen Fox, explained the logic. Cities don't really need dozens of 500-meter towers. It's a special, rarefied building type, and it does not belong everywhere. Pause. But for projects already in progress, this ban was devastating. The Baoneng Shenyang Global Financial Center Tower 1 was originally planned to rise 568 meters, taller than the Empire State Building. It would have been a symbol of Shenyang's ambition. Instead, construction stopped at 9 floors. 9 floors out of what should have been dozens. The structure sits incomplete, a concrete skeleton against the Shenyang skyline. According to Wikipedia, the project remains on hold, with completion now pushed to 2027 at a reduced height. It's not alone. Across China, 231 million square meters of housing projects, nearly 4% of all construction, had been left half-built as of June 2022. An entire nation of unfinished buildings. So what do you do with buildings nobody wants? In Kunming, they found an answer. On August 27, 2021, 15 high-rise buildings of the Sunshine City 2 complex were demolished simultaneously. The towers had sat unfinished for 7 years. 7 years of concrete and rebar producing nothing. Pause. According to Vice, workers installed 4.6 metric tons of explosives at 85,000 detonation points throughout the 15 structures. It took 7 years to build these towers. It took 45 seconds to bring them all down. And Kunming wasn't unique. As of April 2021, the city had 93 unfinished property projects, 93 skeletons waiting for someone to decide whether to complete them or destroy them. A local resident visiting the state guest mansions told reporters, "Everything here has been left abandoned. It all feels quite creepy." That word, creepy, captures something the economic data misses. Ghost cities aren't just financial failures. They're eerie monuments to ambition without purpose, streets designed for millions that echo with emptiness. And nowhere is that eeriness more visible than back where we started, the state guest mansions. Property giant Greenland Group broke ground on the project in 2010, when China's real estate sector was in full swing. They planned 260 European-style villas, grand staircases, imported marble, crystal chandeliers. The name itself, State Guest Mansions, promised a clientele of government officials and business elite. Pause. The project was abandoned about 2 years later, just 2 years from groundbreaking to ghost town. Today, according to France 24 and AFP, farmers have reclaimed the ruins. They raise cattle among the abandoned villas. The marble floors that were supposed to host dinner parties now serve as feeding areas for livestock. The chandeliers hang over empty rooms where cows wander. The irony is brutal. China has millions of people who need affordable housing. And it has millions of luxury units sitting empty because they were never built for people who actually needed homes. They were built because building was the business model. So what's the lesson? China built enough housing to shelter 3 billion people, twice its own population. And yet many Chinese citizens still can't afford to buy a home. Pause. The incentive structure rewarded building over occupancy. Developers got paid when they broke ground, not when families moved in. Cities earned revenue from land sales, not from creating livable communities. And households with few other investment options poured 70% of their wealth into property, betting that prices would always rise. When the music stopped, everyone lost. Developers went bankrupt, homebuyers lost their savings, cities were left with infrastructure for populations that never arrived. The circle of life, ring, stands empty. The Baoneng Tower stands incomplete, and cattle graze in mansions built for millionaires. This is what happens when construction becomes a GDP growth engine divorced from actual demand. When the question, who will live here, becomes an afterthought. China's ghost cities aren't anomalies. They're the logical endpoint of building for building's sake.